All right, now in this lesson right here, what we're going to be doing is taking the time to model in our alien's mouth.
Absolutely. So, well, I'm just going to kind of jump right into this with no further ado. You can see pretty much where we left off on our last lesson with our eye, and really, now we're going to be taking this entire snout area, the chin area, and kind of refining that and making it reflect our image planes, get this fully modeled in. First thing I'm going to do, just like with our last lesson, is I'm going to switch off NURM subdivision.
Keeping it simple.
Absolutely. When we first start out, we really don't need all this detail in here. I'm going to turn edge facing back on. And for now, I'm going to start off in a front view, pretty much like I always have. We'll frame forward a couple times to get this back to transparency and just kind of have a look. We'll have a look at this, and I'll kind of discuss where we're going, what we're going to be up to. So if we look at our shape here, we notice we've got kind of a cheek area. In fact, this might help a little bit if I showed both of these images. We got kind of a cheek area, which is set a little bit forward, and then we've got an indentation here, kind of like a dimple, and then the snout area, which actually curves forward. So we're going to need to actually add some detail to put that shape change in, and then we're also going to need to be adding detail to put the mouth itself in. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make a couple of initial cuts to bring out some of this detail so we can see a little more what's going on. So first I'll get my cut tool out, and I'll just start from here, and I'm just going to cut right to here. Now what I'm doing, really, I added one vertex. All I'm doing right now is just putting in a cut, adding some more detail to make this snout actually come out a little more from the actual shape of the cheek. Still with me over there, Buzz?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to kind of position this where I think it needs to be. And now my next cut, I'm going to go ahead and put in the underside of this lip, just to kind of show where it should be located. And if you're wondering how we're going to get the inside of this mouth, we're going to do that with an extrusion. But we'll get to that in just a minute. Instead of coming all the way over, I need to position these a little more accurately. So I'll go ahead and lay a vertex here on this edge. And then one more. Cut's complete. And actually, if we pan around this, we can already kind of see where that's starting to look like a mouth. So the only other thing we've got here as far as detail-wise that is of any major account is we've got this bit of a crease here at the corner of his snout area, kind of like a dimple, like maybe he's smiling a little bit. And we need to show that in there, and we can't do it right now with the amount of detail we have. So what we need to do is make another cut. And once again, I'm doing this in the perspective view. It's just one of the ways that I work. And we'll come down here to this vertex, and basically what that did was it just made a cut on the outside. And now we can pull that vertex forward and actually have our crease there. So with this much detail in, I'd like to go ahead and take a second and get these vertices properly placed so that our shape will start to take on the shape that we're looking for. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit W to get my move tool out. We'll start with this vertex here at his lip. And based in this view, it looks like it's about halfway between the corner of his mouth and his lip, kind of moving on toward the front here. And you'll notice here it's placed way too far back.
You got it.
So I'm going to middle click, and I'm just going to drag him forward. Place him roughly there. I can go ahead and pull him down a little bit. And then we'll do the same thing for this vertex here. Once again, this looks like it's starting to get kind of close to the front of this of his lip here, but here it looks like it's moving on toward the back, so we'll middle click to make this window, this pane active, and then we'll drag forward. Also maybe kind of pull him down a little bit as well. And then we can go back in here to our perspective view and pan around, and that's already starting to look much, much better. And once again, I will quit trying to rotate in my orthographic view. I'll get used to that one of these days. It's just, it's neat that it can do it, so I just keep doing it, I guess. But anyway, so I'm going to grab this vertex here, and it looks like it should be actually on this cheek, helping us to define this crease. But like here, it appears to be on the cheek here, but here it looks kind of like it's been pulled back a little far. So what I'm going to do is in this window, I'm going to pull it forward. Actually, further forward than the corner of the mouth. Some of you might have picked up on now how these NURM surfaces are working. we're actually, our cage, no matter how we build it, is still going to be further out than our NURM surface.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go ahead and start trying to compensate for that a little bit, and then I'm going to pull this vertex out a little farther than the actual shape here, and then that should help the NURM surface actually lay across that properly. I think really at this point, even the beginners are starting to get used to seeing how NURMs work inside of Max. So right now I'm just kind of tweaking a few things. Let's go ahead and we'll grab this vertex here, and it looks like it should be on the far outside corner of his cheek down here toward his chin. Here it looks like it's just a little too far forward, so we'll pull it back to here. Grab the one directly above it. It looks like the same thing. It should be a little further back than it is. So we'll just kind of pull it back a little bit. And here at his snout, this little apex joint here. Now, here's kind of an issue that I should go ahead and address. When we modeled the eye here, we made several cuts into this little corner here, and we assumed that we were putting them all in the same, all in the same vertex. And as you can see now, if we get right up on it, we really weren't doing that at all. But that's fine. That's really no problem at all to fix. What we're going to do is we'll just, from a perspective view, so we know we don't grab any of the vertices behind, we'll go ahead and grab all of those guys. And with the tool that we used in the last VTM, some of you might remember, we're going to use the collapse tool. Just click on that once, and that's going to turn all those into a single vertex. And we can test that just by clicking on it. Didn't work that time. That's fine.
Well, you got to make sure that you don't have anything in the back also when you click over it.
Absolutely.
Let's see, what do you got going? No, I don't think it's as bad as you're thinking.
Okay.
Two things. Look at what X is doing at the moment, and also scroll down over here a little bit.
Okay.
There you go. And take a look at a little bit further.
A little bit further.
Look at how many vertices you have
selected.
selected.
You have 7 vertices selected.
No. Vertex 7 is selected. So
Vertex
you do
7.
have one, but the problem is he's moved off the X center just a little bit, so you may want to zero that back up.
Absolutely.
Now it'll look like there's just one there. And the guy, what it is he's moved up just a little bit higher than the guy.
Actually, this is actually looks, that's a behind vertex, which is coming forward. I was confused, and I just got bailed out by a student. How embarrassing.
Sorry. No, actually, that was an awesome example just to point out the problems that people have.
Absolutely, yes. That's a really common problem. I mean, I've run into it thousands of times, and, it just hit me again.
Awesome. Keep going. Doing
great.
Yeah,
doing actually pretty pleased with how this is going. But right now, this one vertex we've just created out of many is sitting a little bit too far forward on the snout. We can see that here in this side view. It looks like it should be sitting right there in that kind of apex, that corner between his eyebrows and his snout, and it's not doing that. So we'll come over here into this window and kind of pull it back. Maybe drag it up just a little bit. It's not going to make that much of a difference. And really, we can come over here to our perspective view, and we can shade this back out and kind of pan around, and we're really already starting to get the kind of shape we're looking for. At this point, we can go ahead and run a quick test, and we can turn NURM surfaces back on and just kind of see how this is starting to look. So we'll switch this on. Down here in my perspective view, I'm going to turn off edge facing and just kind of pan around this guy.
Look at that. You're starting to get a little bit of the definition going on there.
Absolutely. Even with these extra 2 cuts here, we're starting to see where this mouth is pretty much going to turn out. This is looking very nice so far. And
awesome. Very cool.
So we'll go ahead and move on from here. I'm going to switch NURMs back off. We just don't need it right now. And I'm going to take a moment, and we're going to go ahead and thank you. Wow, that was Buzz actually just reached over and hit the F4 key for me. So he was kind of reading my mind there. But what we're going to do is use the bevel tool to make a couple of extrusions inside here. Just kind of push these 2 polygons here. Let me go ahead and I'm going to switch to my polygon sub-object mode. Now, once again, I'm the hotkey guy, so I just hit the 4 key as opposed to coming over here and selecting polygons. And just kind of show you, these are the 2 guys we're going to be actually cutting in. We're going to be extruding these guys inside to form not only lips, but an actual mouth cavity, in which later on, if we were animating this guy, we could place a tongue, maybe some teeth. We're going to give, create enough room where we could create the inside of a mouth later on if we had to.
Exactly.
So I'm going to do this not with the extrude tool, and if you guys watched the last VTM, you're going to pick up real quick on why I'm not going to do that. I'll just go ahead and show you for those of you who might be slacking and skipping VTMs. Just if I start to kind of drag straight in, you'll notice I don't really get any curvature of the lips. I'm just cutting straight in here. But if I use the bevel tool, that actually gives me a second level of control where I can extrude in and then actually change the outline. It's actually just like using extrude and outline as two separate tools. They just conveniently combine them into a single tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this with the options menu. And I'm just going to kind of zoom in on this guy. And you can do this from an orthographic view, like maybe from the side. I just find that it's a whole lot easier to try to do in perspective. And I'm just going to cut in a little bit. We're just giving a little bit of definition for some lips here. The outline amount is just fine, so we'll go ahead and we'll apply that. Now it applies the same thing again. The height is really, it's okay. Maybe I'll just kind of bring it in just a little more. But we're going to crank up that outline bit just to kind of smooth those lips out. We're probably going to be going in and editing most of these vertices anyway. But we just need to get them in here, and we'll go ahead and get them as close as we can right now. I'm going to apply that. Now we need to go ahead and start making the mouth cavity. So I'm going to take the outline amount and just kind of turn it up a little bit, not too much. If we turn it up too much, we're going to have this spike here really shooting out into anywhere. So we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead, we'll apply that, and now we'll turn the height way up. And just one more time, and that should give us a lot of control to really open this mouth cavity up. We'll just click OK. Now this really doesn't look like a mouth cavity yet. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is because we did these extrusions with a surface, it went ahead and closed this off. So we've got kind of a funny wall in our mouth surface. We're going to have to get rid of that. But also, because we were moving by the local normal, we shot kind of inward here, and our innermost vertices are not on 0. So we're going to have to fix those and zero those out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the 1 key and go back to my vertex subobject mode. And really, I'm just going to kind of start eyeballing these guys and moving them around. There's no real plan to this. I mean, I really don't need this to look perfect because, the camera is probably not going to be inside this guy's mouth. So I'm just kind of, opening this up, making myself some room so that we have kind of a nice mouth opening. We can put a tongue in there maybe later on. Still with me, Buzz?
I sure am.
All right. And a lot of this is just tweaking. I mean, it looks tedious. In fact, maybe it is a little bit tedious, but it's just one of those things that kind of has to be done. So this one right here, I'm going to take his X and just zero it out. Slide this back to kind of even it out from here. You notice me doing a whole lot of panning around. This is a funny shape to begin with, but I'm going to try to make it look a little more regular just by moving things around a bit. You'll just kind of see me just stretching these out, forming, but really just kind of a hole for the inside of a mouth. Very simple, nothing major. Really, if you're doing this with me and yours doesn't look exactly like mine, that's 100% okay. Really, all I'm trying to prevent is things from interpenetrating. I don't want, for instance, I don't want this cavity to shoot out the side of his cheek like so. Just trying to keep everything contained, but still keep it kind of nice where we could potentially use this later on. So that's actually starting to look good. Let's go ahead and take a moment, and all of these vertices on the inside here need to be zeroed out in X. So I'll just do that one at a time. Just click on it, highlight down here, 0, enter. And we'll move on to the next ones. The vertices get kind of hard to see because we're actually on the back face of this shape.
Or try right-clicking on the spinner.
Or we'll right-click on the spinner.
The spinner.
The spinner. Oh, I'm sorry. The spinner. There we go. Oh, wow. Very handy.
Nice little shortcut. Just in
Actually,
case you don't
didn't know that one. That's like almost a hotkey. I'm excited. Okay, so I'll click on that. We'll just right-click. The spinner. I'm going.
There you go.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And if you roll your mouse while you're doing that, it moves the spinner. We don't want to do that. So I'll kind of get in here a little bit closer so I can start seeing more of these verts. That one's already at 0. That one's not. Oh, that's so nice. So quick. You tried to tell me that earlier, didn't you?
I sure did.
Oh, wow. I should start paying more attention to my students. So we'll just keep zeroing these guys out with our newfound right-clicking trick, which I'm completely excited about. Now, actually, this is all looking pretty good. We got a nice cavity for this mouth, but you'll notice the one problem. Buzz, can you tell me what my problem is here?
Well, There's all sorts of things I could say, but are you talking about the inside polygon?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, yeah, there are a lot of things you could say because this is not a really perfect shape, but really, when we turn on NURMS, this is going to really round itself out, and it's going to end up looking okay. But for now, you're right, absolutely right. We've got this inside wall here that we need to kind of get rid of. So I'm going to hit the 4 key to go to my polygon sub-object mode, and as I select these guys, they're going to turn transparent because, again, we're on the back face of this shape. And I don't want to hold down Shift when I do this, otherwise I start cloning stuff, so I'll just undo that. Hold down Control instead, and kind of zoom in here to where I can really see these guys, and just select them all. We can pan around to the inside to make sure they all are selected, and hit the Delete key, and boom, they're gone, and we got the inside of a mouth. And yeah, it does look a little bit helter-skelter. If we want to, it'd be very easy for us to collapse some of these vertices and simplify this.
It really just comes down to a shaping thing. That's really what it's all about at this point.
No, actually, we can go ahead and take some of this and just kind of scoot this over. I mean, now that we've got that wall out of the way, it's a lot easier to see exactly what we're working with.
Exactly.
So really, I'm not too displeased with that.
While you're tweaking, you may want to go full screen with the perspective view because it'll. Yeah.
Really, because that's all I've been working in anyway, and everybody now is trying to watch the VTM and squinting into the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So really, the next thing I'd really like to tweak is the corner of his mouth. Because of the way we did those bevels, it really kind of looks like the corner of his mouth is almost webbed here. So what I'm going to do is grab these vertices in here and moving in the ZX plane, I'm just going to kind of pull it a little further into the corner. Not too much, just a little bit. And then take the one directly behind it and start off by doing the same thing. And then from the side, I'm just going to pull him a little bit forward in Y. Once again, not too much, just trying to do some gentle changes here. So we got a little bit of inner penetration here we need to fix, not a problem. It's one of those areas where you start to get a whole lot of vertices really tight together, and the key here is not to panic and go, oh my god, it's ugly, it's never going to look right, and freaking out. Just kind of work with it, and you'll pull your way through it. Okay. I'm going to go here and I'm going to try to use my semi-transparency mode and start to see what some of these problems are. This is where that material that we created is really going to come in handy. And again, you can use X-ray mode for this. I only like this because it just makes it so convenient to go between full transparency, semi-transparency, and totally opaque. And really that kind of cleaned up our problem. So that's looking pretty good. I'd like to go ahead and take the front of this lip and we'll kind of pull it out a little bit to add a little bit of a point. We can kind of thin these lips up a little bit, actually. They're a little thicker than they need to be. We'll do that by grabbing these two vertices, and we'll start by moving these guys up. And we'll grab the guys directly behind them, and we'll move them up as well. And then take the verts directly behind them, and in the ZY plane, we'll move them directly behind. Maybe we'll bring these guys down. Really, this is just kind of tweaking and shaping. So here we'll pull up. That'll really thin the lips out a little bit for us. Let's go ahead and just take a second. Let's switch on NURM surfaces and see how this is starting to look.
All right.
Scroll down here to the bottom to NURMS, reactivate that. I'm going to switch off my edge facing, and we'll just kind of zoom out. Definitely not bad at all.
Okay.
But there's still a few things we're going to kind of need to keep track of here. I mentioned earlier in this VTM that we're going to be creating the other half of this alien's head with a symmetry modifier. What that's going to do is create an exact duplicate of for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's going to be creating a duplicate and basically mirroring it over, as well as welding together all the vertices that form the seam between the two. See, what I'm getting at, that our potential problem right now is that this is a really harsh angle to be going into a direct copy. Really, if you laid a mirror up against this, the other side would come down like that. We'd have a really severe point. It would help if we could kind of go ahead, take a couple seconds, and clean a little bit of that up. Now, some of it we're not going to be able to clean up until we actually lay our symmetry modifier.
Well, what do you think? You want to go ahead and do the symmetry modifier now?
Well, we could. Why don't we go ahead and just lay it down?
Do it.
All right.
Everybody has their own technique for actually modeling. Zach likes to work with just half a head. It keeps things real simple. Usually when I'm modeling, I model with the full head visible while half of the head's keeping up with the other. Again,
That would be using an instance?
It all comes down to technique. Well, there's several different ways that you can go about it, including using symmetry as well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put the symmetry modifier in here.
Okay, but you might want to go ahead and come out of sub-object mode real quick.
That'd probably be a really good idea. We'll go ahead and do that. And with this guy selected under my modifier list, just going to hit the S key about 14 times. Press enter, and yeah, don't be scared when this happens.
Entertainment, all right.
Yes,
There's our new model.
You like our alien head? VTM's over. Have a good night. So really, all we got to do is just change the direction that this happened in. Whoop.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. And that's starting to look a little bit. I mean, we've got two sides of an alien head now.
Kind of has a bit of an evil look to him.
A
little flattened, a lot of tweaking that needs to happen.
That's okay, but I mean, yeah, that's what we're here for. We set the thing up, we get the thing basically modeled in, and then we go through and we make these tweaks and get everything finished off in the end.
Now, the big thing to note about this symmetry right here is the fact that you can see that the mirror axis is selecting which axes you're going to mirror it across, and there's actually a gizmo inside that shows you the direction itself.
Absolutely, you can click right over here, open this up.
And, yeah, you can move it if need be. Also,
like so.
Yeah, like so. Also, we're going to want it relatively close because you'll also notice that we've got weld seams checked currently down at the bottom of the parameters over there. And there's a threshold setting for that also for how close the vertices need to be together before they actually become welded into one.
Absolutely.
Now, having everything set up right now, one of the really cool things that Zach can now do is go back down to editable mesh over there. You notice how we lost the one, but now we can go ahead and turn on Show End Result. So it's going to show you everything that's propagated all the way up throughout the stack, but he can still work now at this level, back with the actual editable poly, and you can see the results.
Absolutely.
And again, this just comes down to personal preference on when you want to add this and how you want to go about doing it. So, Zach, at this point, you want to go ahead and use this now to discuss what you're talking about?
We'll go ahead and just start tweaking, yeah. So actually, since we've gone ahead and put in the symmetry modifier, I'm going to be doing a lot of tweaking. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the mouth.
Yeah, let's just finish up the mouth. Then in the next section,
we'll go ahead and start tweaking the rest of it. Because I mean, as you can see from here, if I pan around where you can see our image planes, we've got a nice rounded surface on our drawing. But here we got these sharp edges. That's going to need to be addressed. But we'll take care of that later.
Okay, so let's go ahead and finish up on the mouth here.
So I'll go ahead for now, and I'll leave end result on just so you can see really how the symmetry modifier is working. I'm going to turn vertices back on. And, we get our cage over here on this side, and I'm just going to grab a vertex at random just to show you how this works. And as I pull him around, you'll see he changes on the other side as well.
Yeah, this is very, very valuable while modeling.
So right now, really, I'm looking for problem spots. I don't like how the snout area, if we look at it from down here, is kind of triangular shaped. I'm going to try to fix that, and how I'm going to do it is by adding a little more detail.
Okay.
I'll do that with my cut tool. And for just a second, I'm going to go ahead and turn off NURM subdivision. It makes it a little easier to make cuts if you can see all the edges you'll be cutting from.
Oh, absolutely.
So we'll just kind of start, we'll say, from here. And I'll hit F4 there to turn the edge facing back on, or some magical hand will come in and switch it on for me. And I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to make a cut pretty much just to this edge here. It doesn't need to connect to anything else. Really, all I'm doing here is making a little more detail in this upper lip. I'm going to be taking these vertices, I zoom way in, and I'm going to be pulling these forward to kind of get rid of this triangular shape we've got going on. If I rotate around here to the bottom, you notice that we've got this real triangular edge. But what I can do now is I can get my move tool out, and I can pull these guys forward in Y. And you see that's already rounding it out here in the low res. And naturally, if it rounds it out in low res, it's going to help fix it in the high res as well.
Absolutely.
Going to notice a couple of other things too. There's a little bit of pinching going on here with our vertices, with our high res combined with the symmetry modifier. That's really no big deal. Don't panic about that. We're going to be fixing that later. Actually, if you've been watching our image planes really closely, you're going to notice, I'll just pan back here, we need a little more detail there to bring that snout back in anyway, so all that stuff's going to be addressed.
Okay, so inside the mouth, is the cavity looking pretty good?
Well, just get right up in there and have a look. It's looking fine from back here.
Okay.
I think it's looking very nice. It's ready to throw some teeth in if we wanted to, but we're not going to be doing that tonight.
All right, so now at this point, I know you're just itching to get in there and actually start going about making tweaks to this guy, because that's the first thing that just kind of lights up like red flags all over the place. Saying,
Exactly.
Hey, tweak me. So at this point, we really have the mouth roughed in pretty well. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and conclude this lesson. We'll advance into the next section. And in that section, what we'll do is we'll spend some time actually tweaking this thing to now finally start getting our actual shape that we had put together in our image references.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's going to conclude this section right here. Thanks, guys.